Tonight, on Frightmares, Ghost Kids. Good evening, welcome. Tonight, I invite you to walk the aisles of ghostly tales from my collection of nightmares. I'll choose some of the most bone-chilling stories that are guaranteed to fuel your nightmares. Lock your doors and windows, turn down the lights, and get underneath the covers. It's time for Frightmares, a collection of ghostly tales. I must have been about 14 years old or so. I was riding bikes with my friends, and we stopped at this park for a rest and a sip out of the water fountain that was there. I lived in Canton, Ohio, and the park was next to an old cemetery that we sometimes messed around in. We'd walk around, looking at the old dates. To us, the 1800s might as well be prehistoric times. But anyway, on this day, we were just hanging out at the park. The cemetery and the park were separated by some land with a nice big creek creating the property lines. It was broad daylight. My friends were sitting at a picnic table, and I was still sitting on my bike with one foot on the picnic table seat. We were talking, and I was gazing around at all the people at the park. My eyes turned toward the cemetery. There was a scene, an activity. It seemed odd. There was a group of people, maybe 50, men, women, and kids. They all wore period clothing. There was a tent and something cooking over a fire. At first I thought it was a Renaissance festival. It's weird now that I'm retelling this. I remember there was no color. The scene was in black and white. I didn't really notice that at the time. But in retrospect, I remember that there was no color. I pointed and said, "Hey, you guys see that?" My friends looked. To them. It must have been an empty field. They looked back at me, questioningly. "See what?" said one of them. At this point, I knew they couldn't see it. My tone dropped. I said, "All those people." I knew what was coming. They laughed. "All those dead people over there? No, we can't see them." "Can you see them? Woo, woo, boo." They mocked me. They both got on their bikes and left me there. I continued to stare at the scene. I was doubting if they were really there or not. My attention was drawn away from the scene by a little girl that began making her way down to the creek's edge. My attention had left the crowd, and I was solely focused on this little girl at the water's edge. She was pretty far away, but it looked like she was rinsing out a cup or something. She looked up. She was looking directly at me. The hairs on the back of my neck went up on end. Her cold stare chilled my spine. The staring contest seemed to go on forever. Finally, I waved. She stood up, still staring at me. Suddenly, in about a half a second, she went from 50 yards away to right in front of me. We were face to face. I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't scream. Her face looked like a demon, sunken in and pale white. She whispered in a rough voice,
"Your friends can't see us."
Then she vanished. I grabbed my bike and pedaled out of there quicker than I've ever pedaled before. It was the summer between 4th and 5th grades. I had just turned 10. On this particular morning, I had slept in. It was around 10 o'clock. I laid in bed awake, just as I was about to get up and go downstairs. I heard a cluster of voices. It was coming from downstairs. I could hear my mother's voice and several other voices I didn't recognize. It was busy, conversational chatter, but I couldn't understand anything that was being said. It sounded like 8 or 10 people were downstairs. I heard a couple of kids' voices, too. I decided not to go downstairs. The last thing I wanted to do is meet my parents' new friends. I could do without all the questions and cheek-pinching, so I just sat on the edge of my bed listening to the chatter, waiting for everyone to leave. From my view, I could see the staircase. There was a banister around the stairs. If someone came upstairs, from my point of view, I would see the back of their head when they got about halfway up. At the top was a small landing. There was a door that went out to the second-story porch that overlooked our backyard. From the landing, one would have to make a 180-degree turn and take 3 more steps up to the second floor. At this point, they would be facing me.
Don't go away. There's more to come. I just want to take a second to beg you to subscribe, comment, because it really helps us grow and we want to keep content coming. Thanks in advance. Now back to the show.
After about 20 minutes, I heard a child singing. Soon I could see the back of his head. He was coming up the stairs. He looked to be about 5 or 6 years old. I had never seen this boy before. He had blonde hair. The thing that stood out to me was he was wearing a brown jacket. I thought it seemed to be a pretty heavy jacket to be wearing in July. When he reached the landing, he stopped singing for a moment. He went to the back door and went up on his tippy toes. He was peering out the window in the door. He began singing again. He made the 180-degree turn to come the rest of the way up. I could see his face now. He started to take the first step up when our eyes met. He stopped singing midway through the verse. He looked scared. I thought he was startled, simply because he wasn't expecting someone to be there. I spoke. "Hey, it's okay. Don't be scared," I said. He suddenly turned to his left and disappeared right into the wall. The moment he did that, the bathroom door at the top of the stairs slammed shut with a loud slam. I jumped up and ran to the bathroom door. It was only about 15 feet away. I hadn't processed what I'd seen yet. I was thinking about this little boy. I thought I had scared him so badly that he had leapt up those 3 stairs and into the bathroom and slammed the door behind him. I waited at the door, listening. Nothing. I remember thinking that he was very fast. I remember thinking that he was so fast that it looked like he went through the wall. I gently tapped on the door. Nothing. I slowly opened the door. Just a crack. So he could hear me. "I'm sorry I scared you," I said. "Are you okay?" Nothing. I pushed the door open and went in. Nothing. I swished the shower curtain back to look in the tub. Nothing. I ran to the small bathroom window and flung it open. I stuck my head out to see if he had jumped out. Nothing. I stood in the middle of the bathroom, confused. My little 9-year-old brain was trying to process what I'd just seen. It was then I noticed the voices were gone. The house was now eerily quiet. I went down the 3 steps to the landing. I peered downstairs. I listened. Nothing. I went downstairs. The house was quiet and empty. My mom was the only other person in the house. She was at the kitchen sink, doing dishes. "Oh, good morning, son," she said. "Did you have people over?" "Just now, I mean," I asked. "No, honey," she said. "Your father's working and your sister is out with her friends. It's been quiet all morning." "Did you hear the door slam upstairs?" I asked. "Nope, like I said. It's been quiet all morning." "Are you okay?" she asked. Yeah, I'm fine, I told her. But I was not fine. It was Christmas time, the first in our new house. I have a wife and 2 sons. We moved in September, and had not had anything odd happen before Christmas time. I have 2 stories, but they're both quick, so hopefully you'll count it as one story. We put the Christmas tree up, right beside the basement door, which was always closed. The location just seemed like the obvious place to put the Christmas tree. In retrospect, now that I think about it, everyone who ever lived there probably put the tree there. Anyway, I was in the kitchen, doing my part, cleaning up, after dinner. My wife was waiting in the living room for me to come watch a movie with her, and the boys were in their room, playing before bedtime. I heard my wife's voice. She called out to me, and I heard my name, but I couldn't understand what she was saying. "Hang on, I'm almost done," I called out. I quickly finished what I was doing and quickly rounded the corner to head to the living room. When I came around, the basement door was open. It's never open. At first I thought my wife was down there, but the light was out, and it was pitch dark down there. I pushed it halfway closed, and that's when I saw the little girl. She had her back to me. She was standing at the tree, rearranging the ornaments. I watched for a few seconds, trying to figure out who this little girl is. "What are doing? Who are you?" I asked. She slowly turned around. Her cute face morphed into something that looked like it came out of hell. The thing opened its mouth ridiculously huge and let out a screaming howl, lightning fast. She disappeared into the basement and the door slammed shut. I was terrified. My wife ran in from the next room. "What's wrong?" she shrieked. She could tell I was scared. I tried to shake it off. I'm not sure," I muttered. I went down into the basement and looked around. There was nothing down there. I didn't tell my wife what I had seen. No sense in both of us being terrified. Later that night, I asked her what she was saying when she called out. She said she'd never called out to me. Not only did I have something evil in my house, it could mimic my wife's voice. So I told you I have 2 stories. The very next morning, I was in the living room with my oldest son. He was watching the snow come down in our front yard through the front window. I was channel surfing on the TV. "Dad," my son called, "there's a man digging in the yard." "What?" I replied, as I quickly made my way to the front door. I looked out the front door window and saw nothing. "What are you talking about, son?" I asked. He was still looking out the window. I leaned down and put my head next to my son's head and peered out the window with him. There he was. There really was a man digging, and the hole was huge. The dirt was piled high. I quickly stood back up and looked out the door window again, and he was gone. I looked out the window with my son again. He was still there, digging away. This time I opened the door and ran out. Nothing. My son said, as soon as I opened the door, the whole scene vanished. Whatever lived in our house must have held some secrets of Christmas past. Nobody would ever see anything weird until Christmas time. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Like the video and subscribe to the Tenzar channel for a whole selection of different shows. Share the video with your friends and your enemies. I'm Vince Von Bauer, and this is Frightmares. I'll see you next time.